All right, Happy New Year. We are back, Northcentral Nfused. It is January 2019. I saw a meme not too long ago, so get used to 3 months of this, with people writing the 8 and then trying to write their 9 over real hard. So yeah.
I've done it many times already.
Exactly.
Well, I don't write checks anymore, so.
Yeah,
you guys speak
one nice, one problem.
All right, so it is the new year. We're going to be talking about a few things. We are actually doing 2 podcasts this month. We're going to be doing a special podcast starting next week for broadband initiative and trying to bring that to our members, and along with higher speed internet, because everybody needs that. You know, once you like we said, you said that a few months ago. Once we see what high speed internet can do, you're going to want it and need it. So that's something we're going to be talking about. But I am joined by our CEO, Mr. Kevin Doddridge.
Good day.
You got to speak into the mic.
Hello. You would think with technology it would kind of cure that.
Yeah.
But you have to get closer and closer, I see, all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I close enough now?
I think so, okay. Yeah. I think you're all right now. Our Director of Safety and Loss Control, Mr. J.D. Cox.
Good
Happy
morning.
New Year to you. And our Director of Communications and Economic Development, Michael Vellapani.
Happy New Year, everybody.
All right, so January. What's going on with our cooperative?
Well, what is today? January?
Today's the 3rd. This will run through the whole month.
January's the 3rd, so remember that when you listen to this podcast. Some of this information could become dated, but in all likelihood not. And like you mentioned, Justin, thanks for teeing that up about the broadband. The state legislature will go into session next week. Michael and myself will probably spend a significant amount of time in Jackson as we look at legislation concerning broadband and other things that affect electric cooperatives. So we think it'd probably be a good idea if we dedicate a podcast whenever you can produce it next week to kind of get into that specifically. But that's the state level, and there's always things going on at the national level. Some things that we at NRECA, our national trade group, have helped us with. And one of them is, through the Farm Bill, there is somewhere in the neighborhood of $600 million that's been allocated for high-speed internet. Now, that'll be a combination of what we call CAF funds, which is funds made available to telecom companies so that they can expand broadband themselves. There is concern because a lot of that money comes to Mississippi, and we're not seeing that expansion that we hoped we would. A lot of it will be in the form of loans and grants, and we'll, of course, our early models don't include that type money, but we'll explore opportunity as it comes up. Also, and we fight this every year, is our pension plan. Northcentral is one of many electric co-ops, several hundred throughout the United States, that participate in a pension plan. We have to pay the same pension insurance that other corporations have to pay. Corporations that have their own plan to guarantee that plan, and that makes sense. But we are a multi-employer plan, and we think that the premium, that's the way that it is applied to us, is way too high, and we're trying to get that changed. Also, another concern that we have in the Trump tax plan that came down last year was the taxation of grants. I just mentioned grants that we could get for high-speed internet. We don't want that to come in and affect our tax-exempt status. It could also apply to FEMA grants, which Northcentral, being in the north part of the state, we don't have the enormous grants that sometimes the coastal cities do when they get completely wiped out by hurricanes. But we have had $2.5 million grants that we've received based on some of the tornadoes that we have and ice storms. So we don't want the receiving of those funds through the grant process to affect our tax-exempt status. Something going on locally that really affects Northcentral's ability to provide reliable power is we're working with TVA to upgrade their transmission system. This is something that has needed to be done for years. It is something that our engineering department recognized years ago. TVA, a large organization, their planning, their processes sometimes aren't as fast as we would like. But it has culminated in a plan to where they intend to tie our West Pleasant Hill substation with the Mineral Wells substation. It's been determined through studies that we are approaching a risk factor that if we lose one of TVA's transmission line, we could lose a lot of our consumers in Olive Branch, and there's some uncertainty as to how quickly we could pick them back up. Mm-hmm. When you're in a high-growing area like Olive Branch, and really even the rural areas too, you just can't have that. So they are proposing a transmission line that will connect those two substations, could help us actually link it to another substation in the future. And if you want to look at that path, it can be found at www.tva.com/transmission projects. And when you go to that link, just go to Mississippi. You'll find a lot of projects going on, but you'll find that Olive Branch project. TVA has narrowed down their number of routes, and I don't know if they're still taking any comments, but you can comment on the website if you'd like to, and it just shows a variety of routes going through the northwest part of our system. But as we move on into 29, we're very optimistic. We're happy with where we stand. We're happy with the growth that we're anticipating, industrial-wise, commercial-wise, the new homes, the impact of Interstate 269. I'm sure JD will address it at some point, that safety is always a priority, and we're going to re-up it every year. And to borrow something from our strategic plan, we hope to continue to think strategically, work smarter, and continuously improve.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, that's some of the things we're going to be having going on for 2019. Again, we'll be working on a special edition of this podcast to discuss the broadband and try and bring out more information about that and ways that you can get involved and become connected with the legislation and how things are progressing with that. And that's something that would be huge for our area. And it would also bring more competition, which makes those big guys work a little harder to give more consumer incentive. And so it's always a good thing for.
I'll take another sip of water.
All right, JD, you're going to be talking about some safety stuff. What do you have for us this month?
Well, first up, as Kevin said, during the first quarter of this year, we're going to come out with a safety campaign internally. Just want to make sure that everyone realizes that safety is absolutely a core value here at North Central, and we understand that our employees working safe and in a safe way is also safer for our community. So we'll be coming out with a new plan for safety in the first quarter. We'll make sure it stays fresh and it doesn't get stale and it's not the same old thing. I think that's very important. But for our members, there's three things I'd like to talk about as we move into the colder temperatures at the first part of the year, and the first one is space heaters. Space heaters actually are the second leading cause of home fires in the United States. They are attributing over 65,000 home fires to heating of people's homes and stuff like that. And just some important things that we need to remind everyone. First of all, if you buy a space heater and purchase it, it's for temporary use only. It's not meant to be the sole heat in a house. Read the instructions. That's very important. I know for a lot of us that's very tough. We get something in, first thing we want to do is take the instructions and throw them in the garbage. But please read the instructions on how to properly use the space heater. Never leave it unattended. Anytime one is unattended, whether it be a young child or elderly person, they can get knocked over and start a fire that way. Proper placement is very important. Most of the instructions are going to tell you to keep a space heater at least 3 feet away from anything that could possibly ignite. Carbon monoxide poisoning. This time of year, people are running devices in their house, whether it be fire logs. Some of them are ventless, some of them do not provide venting. Make sure that you have carbon monoxide detectors. If you do have those in your home, make sure that you check the battery. This is be a good time of the year, first of the year, temperatures are getting colder, be sure to check the batteries. And one thing that was common years ago, I believe, and people used to heat their houses with their stoves. Very dangerous. Do not do that. But it used to be common. People would turn them on, let the door of the oven or stove down, and that's how they especially would heat the kitchen.
The telltale sign would be the knobs melting just a little bit.
Absolutely. But that's not what they're designed for. No. Like I said, read the instructions. It tells you that that's not what they're designed for. And the next one is generators. In the event that you need a generator, it's for outdoor use only. And we've talked about before many times, you're always going to hear every year, unfortunately, 2 or 3 stories where somebody has decided to use a generator and they put it in their garage and they shut the garage door. Monoxide poisoning gets in the house, and it leaves some very unintended consequences. Do not plug your generator into a wall outlet of your house. That's something that is not only dangerous for the homeowner, it's very dangerous for our employees, our coworkers who are out there trying to restore power because of what they call backfeed. It's a way that the generator can actually electrify their transformer outside, and that can affect us. Turn the generator on before you plug it in, any appliance, because if you don't, it typically will overload it. That surge will trip the breakers on the generator. And naturally, if you run it for long periods of time, make sure that you turn it off and allow it to cool before you try to refuel it. Last thing you want to try to do is use an older gas can, spill gas all over the generator, and it still be hot. So those are just a few tips of things to look out for in the wintertime to make sure that our members are staying safe.
Absolutely. And something that you talked about with the space heaters that you can talk about attributing to fires and 6,500 fires. If you're going to use a space heater, I think it's a good idea to have a fire safety plan as well, because, I mean, in my previous life before I got here, I was working in news, and there was a story that hit the Mid-South community pretty hard. It was a family of 6 had a space heater, fire caught in the house, and the security bars and doors that they had in place trapped them in that house.
Yes.
You're talking about 3 kids that unfortunately lost their lives to something like this. So I think it's another thing is if you're going to resort to this, you need to have a backup plan in case something goes wrong with that space heater, I think. So that's something to probably consider as well.
In our industry, unfortunately, we're called upon many times when there's a fire to disconnect the electrical services to make it safe for the first responders. And anytime you roll up and you see those bars on the windows and stuff like that, I mean, you just cringe.
Yeah.
Because like I said, there's going to be several stories throughout every year where there's a space heater involved. There's going to be bars on the windows. Young children and the elderly are the ones that are most affected by it. And so absolutely have a fire safety plan at your home. Everyone should have that. Let your children know what to do if they're in their bedrooms and they can't come out the door because of a fire. And just really educate them on that. It can really save lives.
Are we still seeing the use of the kerosene heater? Used to, that was something that you would read about at least once a year, something tragic happening there where you had a house that was especially tight, something like a kerosene heater, and the family would basically go to bed and not know what was happening to them, and they lose their life due to carbon monoxide poisoning. Do we still see many of the kerosene heaters?
No, I really don't see a lot of the kerosene heaters, and I think a lot of that's got to do with just the education about what it puts off in the house and how dangerous it is, and really just the expense of it. And because now you can go get a space heater, very inexpensive, plug it in and you have instant heat. So, over time, I think where we used to see so many instances of kerosene fires and things like that, it's moved more towards the space heaters.
They've
and
got
stuff
those
like that.
oil radiator type heaters as well, I think.
And they've gotten a lot safer now. They have devices on them where if they're tipped over and things of that nature, they'll automatically shut off. So those have actually gotten a lot better. But every year, I mean, it's something that affects us as well. When the temperatures really dip down cold and they get in the 20s and stuff like that, unfortunately, we'll start to see the space heater fires really increase.
And it's been a very warm December, but so, I mean, really in the Mid-South, it really starts dipping in February and March is where because we still see snow days in March in some years.
But if you have any questions, I know that Justin's going to give out our email address here in just a minute. If you will forward those questions, I can promise you we will get you an answer. And one thing I always say, if I don't know the answer, I promise you I'll get you an answer from someone that does.
And so if you have questions about safety around the house or in this podcast in general, it's podcast@northcentralepa.com. Email us anytime. We'll be glad to try and answer those questions and address them on the show. We would love to see some member interaction on this podcast. So if anybody has any questions on anything happening with broadband, with safety, with community involvement, anything, please let us know and feel free to ask. So podcast@northcentralepa.com. And so now, speaking of community, we go over to our Director of Marketing and Business Development. So what do we have going on this month?
Hey, Justin. Thanks. And that's a good conversation to have this year. And just to piggyback on what JD said about generators, I've noticed that there's increased marketing right now for fixed generators, the Generacs, and you'll see commercials on the news for that. And I get calls from time to time from members that are inquiring about that and how they can work with us as their utility and the vendor for that generator on ensuring that they get the proper size generator at their home. And just let folks know that we are available to work. We've got an engineering team that will help take a look at the proposal that vendor has given you and to help properly size and install that generator in a safe manner and make sure that you're getting the best bargain for that technology at your home. So email us, call us if we can help do that. As Kevin mentioned, the legislature is going to convene next week on the 8th at noon, gavel in. This is going to be an interesting session in the legislature for the state of Mississippi. I'm really glad that we've gotten this podcast off the ground because my frustration in being in the Memphis media market is that we don't hear a lot from our state house in Jackson. In our local newspapers, on the news, and we want to make sure that our members are informed about what goes on in your state government. And we're going to use this as a venue for that, and to be able to let you guys know what's going on as best we can in a nonpartisan and impartial way. So it will be an interesting session. There's a number of topics that will be brought up, Medicaid expansion being one, teacher pay, workforce development, and of course the broadband issue that we talked about.
And it's an election year.
This is going to be a particularly interesting session because every statewide office is up for election this year. And the deadline to qualify for these elections is in March 1st, 5 p.m. So you're basically going to get 50 days of a legislative session to evaluate how your legislators are performing before that qualification date. So no, it's fun for us politicos to take a look at that kind of stuff. But there is a deadline for introducing bills of January 21st, and if you stay in communication with your representatives and senators, and you see issues that affect your business, that affect your lifestyle, that affect your children, please reach out to them because I know they're willing to listen. I know they're willing to help. We've got some legislators that really want to affect change in our communities. So if you look at our latest issue of Today in Mississippi, their contact information is in there. So let you know who represents you. And
there's an app.
There is also an app, the Electric Cooperatives of Mississippi Legislative app. If you're looking at Today in Mississippi, it'll show you where that is and how to download it, and it's very convenient. I mentioned that there is a deadline to qualify for elections of March 1st, and that's for any of the statewide offices. The primary election is going to be in August 6th, I believe, and then the general will be the first week in November. So this is an interesting year. I just want to make sure everybody's registered to vote. One of our goals is being involved in the democratic process within our co-op and also within our state and local elections. So you can visit the Secretary of State's website. It's sos.ms.gov. where you can download a mail-in voter registration form. I know we have people moving in all the time from out of state and out of the area. When you update your driver's license, you have an opportunity to register to vote. You can also register to vote at your circuit clerk or municipal clerk's offices. And I learned one thing too, you can also register to vote at the Department of Human Services.
So, that's a new one. Okay, I didn't know.
So
about
there
that.
are ways to do that, and if you want to participate in this election, you need to register to vote by July 8th. So it should be fun. We'll keep you updated, and we'll have a more in-depth dive next week in our podcast.
Deeper dive.
Yes.
We might actually give out some phone numbers next week.
You can tell Michael did a great job. I was taking notes.
And it's not so much as if you want to vote. You need to vote. If you are a living, breathing American over the age of 18, you need to vote. I mean, that's
right.
just, you need to make sure your voice is heard. So we're going to talk real quick about some of the community events that we're involved with in January and February.
We've got, I mentioned this in last month's podcast, but January 19th is the annual Crystal Ball that is benefiting the Community Foundation of Northwest Mississippi, a great organization that supports many not-for-profit and nonprofits in Northwest Mississippi. If you want information on this event, it is a formal. It's you go to cfnm.org. But a great event that raises money to really impact our communities. And this year they're honoring a Holly Springs native, Jesse Holland, who
authored the novel Black Panther.
The novel, the inspiration for
Right.
the Black Panther movie, I guess. I did a little background reading on him, and they said he grew up reading the comic book, and he just felt inspired to write the novel. So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
February 7th at 7 a.m. is the annual Fellowship of Christian Athletes breakfast, and they're going to have Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Famer Mike Singletary, who will be speaking to the group. If y'all don't know, we have a new semi-pro team coming to Memphis, the Memphis Express. Mike Singletary is the coach. I think
Formerly of the Bears.
Of the Bears. Yeah, that's right. And I think their season starts immediately after the Super Bowl, like on the 10th of February. So it'll be pretty interesting to watch. Zach Mettenberger, the old quarterback from LSU. They've got a couple other LSU guys and former Tennessee players on that team, so it'll be
Some Ole Miss guys.
Yep, there are. We didn't have any Mississippi State guys on there for some reason.
And when you think about, years ago, for those who are not aware of it, when we had another football league in town like that, they really had a big following. And if you think about some of the athletes that come through, that program is pretty impressive. So looking forward to it.
Well, there's nothing like that depression that sets in between the end of football season and the start of spring training, right? So this will hopefully fill that void, and something we can all get behind and take pride in as part of our Mid-South metro area. And those of you who give blood or feel so inclined to try it, we will be hosting a winter lifeblood event here in the auditorium.
Valentine's Day, isn't it?
Yeah, this is February 12th here in our auditorium. You can visit clublifeblood.us to register and make an appointment. The good folks at Lifeblood will be here to accept those donations on February 12th.
You get a cookie out of it.
And yeah, cookie and a Coke. So you can ruin that New Year's diet.
Exactly.
Right now, I'd love to have a cookie.
Well, you're not going to ruin it because you're going to lose a pint. So you're going to, whatever weight you lose there, you can get back with the cookie. And the
That's
Coke.
true. That's true. I like your reasoning.
Exactly.
But that's really it for my part. But I wanted to say, this podcast has been kind of a dream of ours for a couple of years now, and we got it off the ground finally last year, and we feel like we're getting better at it and getting to a point to where we're getting an audience, a regular audience. But we need your feedback. Email us at podcast@northcentralepa.com. I can promise you we're going to keep working hard to make this a relevant mode of communication between us and our membership, and even us and our community, those that we don't serve. So,
And our listeners can subscribe to that.
that's right.
Yes.
So please go.
Segue.
Please go. Nice segue. Please go and subscribe to our podcast. Rate us. And how can they find those, Justin?
They can go, you can search North Central Electric Power Association on Podbean or iTunes right now. We also post this on Facebook. We post it on YouTube. We try to make sure that anybody that has access to the internet can access this podcast as well. And it's going to be something much easier to do if we get higher speed internet. So, speaking of segues.
There you go.
But speaking of iTunes, and this is something real quick that I want to talk about and I'm excited about. North Central is getting into the music business in some sort of way. We are proud to announce that 2019 will be bringing you the Musicians for Le Bonheur project. This is a nonprofit all charity CD that we will be releasing with 40 local Memphis and Mid-South artists, musicians, and we're going to try and arrange some hospital performances and all kinds of fun stuff. But we've gotten several names committed so far, and some of those are included Paul Thorne. I know that you were pretty excited about that.
Absolutely.
One. Free World.
I'm excited about all of
Oh, I am too. Danny Cosby's one. We've gotten plenty of interest. Actually, the Bo Keys have given me a commitment as well. So
historical.
This is going to be a great CD. It always is. This was something I did from 2013 to 2015, and then I kind of came to you guys and said, "Hey, can we do this project again?" You guys said yes. So, and it's great when you work for music lovers. But yeah, that's something that we'll be talking about more throughout the year. But that's another project we're going to be working on, along with many safety initiatives and community projects and stuff that we're already involved with. So be sure to follow, subscribe to this podcast. Email us anytime. It's podcast@northcentralepa.com. And coming up in just after the break, we're going to have Danny McGregor. He's a local business owner of Sweet Lorraine's Guitar Shop in Hernando, if you ever get a chance to check them out. And he's also in a band that has committed to Musicians for Le Bonheur called Lately David. So this is going to be a fun little interview with him. And we will be right back. Thank you guys for joining us.
All right,
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're back, and we are joined with Danny McGregor of the local band Lately David, owner of Sweet Lorraine's Guitar Shop. What else do you do? It seems like there should be a third thing for just.
I wear a lot of hats just to cover up my bald head on cold days. The third thing I do, I juggle.
There you go.
Okay.
That's okay. So you're lead singer, business owner, and juggler.
Absolutely.
That's what's the most important.
But here's the caveat. The caveat, though, I can only juggle 2 items. I am not a
Yeah.
good juggler. That doesn't stop me from juggling, though. Most even amateur jugglers, beginner jugglers, you 3 balls, 3 apples, 3 bananas, 3 chainsaws. It doesn't matter. It's 3. I can't do that. I've never been able to do that. I've never even really, honestly, bothered trying to learn to do that. I can do something actually that everyone else in the world can do. It's basically just switching hands between two with 2 things. But I call it juggling just to make myself. Well, I needed the third thing.
Here you go. Well, something that I've always noticed. This is weird. It's just weird to get in this much of a off tangent so quickly, but. You only try it when you see someone else doing it, and you try it for 30 seconds, and you're just like, I can't juggle.
Right.
That's it.
And yet, no, see, but here's where I deviated from that. I saw someone do it. I tried it for 30 seconds with those 2 items, and I thought, I can juggle. 2 items.
All right. So now that we've completely gotten off topic here. So with this podcast, we like to feature local musicians, business owners, and you are 2 in 1 there. So tell us a little bit about your business.
I own Sweet Lorraine's Guitar Shop. It is on the historic Hernando Square. The address for anybody with Google, 2521 Caffey Street. Easy to find. If you're in the area, even if you're not, make the drive. It's not worth it, but try it.
It is worth it.
So I've owned Sweet Lorraine's Guitar Shop for about 4.5 years now, in lovely crime-free Hernando, Mississippi, and it's fun. I've been a musician for the better part of my life. I have never, up until 4.5 years ago, been a businessman, so it's been an adventure. I got into it for what I feel like are the purest of reasons. That I wanted to create music. I wanted to help other people create music. I was tired of the corporate thing, but that notwithstanding, I wanted to try my hand at something else. I was at a point in my life that most of us get to. It's nothing unrelatable. And I thought I'd give it a shot. And it's been fun. I'm not getting rich, so please come shop. But it's great fun. Primarily we do beginner piano lessons and guitar lessons And we have, of course, the complete range of accessories for guitar players and musicians. And, we've got a wall full of new and pre-owned guitars and such as that.
And over the years, I've bought some things there. You got to check it out. It's a really cool shop, and you've got pianos, you've got mandolins, you've got guitars, basses, amps, everything. And something that people got to consider is, those folks that bought their kids for Christmas their first guitar shop, or their first guitar, not guitar shop, their first guitar, they're going to need to learn how to play it, and they can go straight to you and
Absolutely.
Hernando. So, yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and so that way they can blame you when their kid's playing too loud when they're supposed to be doing homework.
I'll take it. Do your homework, kids. No, that's the best part of my day. I love teaching kids guitar. I've got plenty of adult students, and that's fine, and that's wonderful too. Just watching someone learn a new chord, learn a new phrase, learn a new song, whatever. It's exciting. But there's something about a kid breaking through a plateau after they've practiced something for a long time. And this is not unrelatable either. Everyone listening probably understands, being that this podcast features local musicians. There's a lot of local musicians listening. So, you know that feeling. And I get to relive that experience of that excitement of learning a new song, playing a riff that has been, too hard for you for the last 6 months. I get to relive that through my students every day. That ain't bad.
Okay, and you never know when you will train the next Eddie Van Halen.
It has. I love my students, but I can confidently say in the 4.5 years I haven't gotten there yet. I love my students. No, my kids run the gamut of students whose parents want them desperately to take piano lessons, and they are a little less enthused, all the way up through just seeing the spark in a kid's eye, and that this kid gets it. That kid's going to be a wonderful musician someday very soon, and it's fun as all get out. It's fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of which, and you are more than just a guitar teacher. You are a musician, lead singer, guitarist for the band Lately David. Tell us a little bit about that band.
So Lately David, we've been around for longer than I'd care to admit. It's pop music played loudly. We put that little phrase underneath all of our marketing crap, and it's we have fun. It's 3-minute songs that maybe somebody can sing along to after they're done. And we currently, we're working on some brand new music. We've been doing it for, we've been recording, a handful of songs. Let's call it an EP. What do you say?
Okay, there you
All
go.
right. We've been doing an EP for recording one for a handful of months now to kind of put some, polish on it and get it ready to go. And hopefully here pretty soon we'll have some new music up on the up on YouTube and God knows where else that music goes. I am just old school enough to still feel like I should say we're making a record, but I'm just new school enough to know that nobody knows what the hell that means. So wherever you download music from, you'll be able to soon download new tracks from Lately David, sooner rather than later. That's what the latest is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are a great band, and I've known you for several years. We've played a few shows together. We've done a few projects together, and it's a perfect little segue to talk about what we're going to be doing here at Northcentral for 2019. Is the Musicians for Le Bonheur project. You've been involved with that for 5+ years.
I think it was a great idea at its inception. It was executed greatly, wonderfully well by you and your team, and happy to be on board again. So absolutely, it's a no-brainer to get involved with this kind of stuff.
And to give the listeners an idea of what we're going to be doing. This is a nonprofit project. We will create a compilation CD, and the last CD we created was 2015, and we had 40 artists, and it was sold for $10. And it's just really this album of really good local music, and it hits all the genres that you can hear in the city. Of course, pop music and indie rock and metal. We've had a few metal acts on that. We've had rap artists, reggae artists, country artists. So everything that comes out of Memphis, you can hear, and with this album, and everything goes straight to Le Bonheur Children's Hospital. And the reason I wanted to have you as involved in this podcast is we're going to be trying to do some of the things that we used to do. And one of the things that you did in 2015 was go and perform for those kids. So tell us what that was like.
Oh my God! No, it was great. It was around the holidays, and there was a few of us. There was a couple of artists that were associated with the
Butta MD and the band Symphony.
Absolutely. There you go. Okay. I'm glad you had those notes because I desperately wanted to recall but could not. And so it was fantastic to be able to walk around the halls of Le Bonheur with a guitar strapped to your back and going from room to room, lobby to lobby, singing songs. And I mentioned that it was near the holidays, so I'd worked up a quick and dirty rendition of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Jingle Bells, and just great fun. I mean, I'm confident that it brought more joy to me than it did the kids, but it looked like it certainly lit up a few of their eyes. And there was a moment, and I'm certainly not going to be able to recall it, but there was a moment where, for some reason, I got kind of enlisted to make up a song on the spot. And I don't know. Do you happen to remember some of the details?
Yes, I do remember this very well because I was there and I was actually filming this, and I'm sorry that we didn't get to make a product out of that film, but hopefully in 2019. But it was a little girl. Her name was Lulu, and we had to rewrite the song that you wrote. All I want to talk about is you.
Yes.
And so you changed it to all I want to talk about is Lulu.
Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, yeah, it's coming back to me now. Okay, wow. I remember those in broad strokes, but the unfortunately the details escaped me for a moment. But oh yeah, Lulu, that was great. Okay, I'm gonna cry now.
And she was probably about 4 feet tall. She was just this skinny little thing, and she teeth showing, eyes bright. It was so funny when Danny sang to her. I wish I could find that. I might have to try and find it now. It's in one of my hard drives, I'm sure, but we'll have to find that
for
video.
Me. Because if for no other reason, I want to show it to my kids to prove that someone enjoys my singing.
All right, so where can we find out more about Lately, David?
All the usual haunts online. Check us out at YouTube. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, and all that stuff. Just Lately David, spelled like it sounds.
No clever spelling.
No. There's no like backwards numbers for the E. There's no backwards 3 for the E or anything like that. Which, yeah, maybe there should be. Maybe that would help in marketing. But
why not?
So before we change the E to a backwards 3, find us quickly on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, where we've got some videos and such. And even for you local musicians that know about Reverb Nation, we're there as well. You can download some songs, listen to some songs, and see just what we do. And
well, you guys are also on Spotify.
We're there on Spotify because of the thanks to the musicians from the Bonheur stuff. Yeah.
So there's, I think you can hear, I think it's Boys Town History and.
Did we do Guinevere a couple years ago for one of the compilations?
I think so. And then there was another one that Tommy sang.
Oh, You're My Light was a song from a couple years ago. Yeah.
So, all right. So we're going to end out this podcast, but we're going to end it with a Lately David song, and I'm going to let you choose that song right now.
It's a podcast. It feels like we're doing a radio show. Let's do Radioactive.
Radioactive. Right here on North Central Nfused. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for joining us.
Justin, it's been great.